This is Mac Boland from IllinoisMatmen.com, and I am here with the Clash Tournament Director, Lance Hughes. So just to start off, a little background, Lance, if you would. How did the Clash get started?
15 years ago, I was a young man in high school who was a wrestler. His father, Ed Ruska, is the director of the Rochester Amateur Sports Commission. He asked, why isn't there a wrestling tournament? There's a basketball tournament and a hockey tournament here. Why isn't there a wrestling tournament? They came up with the concept to do a dual tournament, and they came up with the plan. They took it to some wrestling guys in the area. A lot of those guys are still with the Clash today, and here we are 15 years later.
And for Illinois wrestling fans, of course, the very first Clash 1 tournament winner was Glenbard North.
Right.
And, you know, this Glenbard North is back this year, a little bit on the weak side. But, you know, Mark Hahn was there back then, and this is his final year.
Mark's been a big part of, and Glenbard North have been a big part of the Clash. They've been here 14 out of the 15 years, and they have a standing invitation to come back whenever they want.
Okay, and speaking of teams now, of course, you have 32 teams.
32 teams.
4 brackets, 18 brackets, and the nice thing is there's no elimination.
Correct. Everybody on the first day wrestles through an 8-team bracket, and everybody who gets, there's 4 of those brackets, everybody who gets first gets put into the first pool on the second day, second, third, fourth on down the line. So you have 8 pools on the second day. You have a champion in your championship bracket, your bracket 2, bracket 3, and bracket 4, and so on.
Right, and after the formal brackets, pool format meaning basically the 4 teams wrestle a round robin.
The 4 teams wrestle round robin.
Right, and with no elimination, you know, a team can go 6-0 or 0-6.
Or 0-6, and there will be one team that goes 0-6.
There always is.
Yep, every year.
Okay, so go ahead.
Not necessarily, I guess.
No.
They wouldn't have to, but the odds are usually somebody does.
Yeah, and how do you select teams?
You know, we decide after the tournament's over in January, we'll start looking at, okay, who are the teams that are going to have a lot coming back? You know, we have 3 standing invitations: Apple Valley, Glenbard, and Vacaville, California. We think they'll all come back for sure.
Okay.
And the recruiting committee gets together and starts saying, okay, let's get these teams. After March is over, all the state champions are crowned. We make a list of all the individual tournament and state tournament team state tournament champions, and we start chipping away and throwing out invitations and seeing what sticks and who's coming.
And a couple of new additions this year. We had Providence Catholic from Illinois, and they had a pretty decent first day. They're in the 3rd bracket. And, of course, Lake Highland Prep, which, you know, came out of nowhere a few years ago, and now, you know, they're ranked 3 or 4 in the nation, you know, depending. So that was probably an obvious one for you.
Lake Highland Prep, we tried to get them in last year, and sometimes things just don't work out.
Sure.
De La Salle, California, it's their first year here. Tahoma, Washington's first year here. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So we get a little new teams. We have 9 new ones this year. 16 states are, out of the 32 teams, 16 states are represented.
Okay, and from a logistical perspective, you know, what entails, you know, like volunteers, et cetera, you know, putting this together?
So as far as the volunteers at the event, the Clash supports Southeast Minnesota Wrestling. That's our initiative. That's what we've been doing forever, and that's what we will do. We go to the clubs around in Southeast Minnesota. We donate money to their club for coming in and working the tables or working the gate. Whatever they're doing, we want to get that money back to the programs in Southeast Minnesota.
Yeah, and in addition, like your referees, you pick from all...
The officials come from all over the country. They are paid. There's always 2 on a mat. But we do have volunteer announcers, which you're well aware of.
Right.
The announcers come in. We have 1 for each team who represent a team. They follow them around the whole tournament.
And speaking of the broadcast, just a little bit about track and TrackCast.
Sure. So we use, it's delivered by TrackCast. Every match here, 169 or 196 duels are put on TrackCast. And we have 1 announcer from each team following throughout the whole tournament. So it's a pretty good webcast. You can find it at trackcast.com. If this is posted early enough, I still got to sell here.
Yeah.
And you can watch the whole tournament.
Okay, and then just real quick, your take on how this year's clash has gone so far?
Very good. I think if you were out there watching the first round of the morning session here, maybe 7 out of the 8 came down to the last match. The bracket, championship bracket, Park Hill, Lake Highland Prep, Buchanan, and St. Ed's from Ohio. That's hammers. We have 2, 3, 4, and maybe 20-ish.
Yeah.
In the top.
Actually, I think
bracket.
after the Stampede, I think Park Hill jumped up to about 14 or 15.
Yep.
Yeah, finishing second at the Kansas City Stampede. Sure. And they're young, but they're the real deal, no doubt about it.
Yep.
And then something to add about how you guys handle like individual matchups. I mean, this is a dual meet format, but of course we get those individual matchups.
Yep.
And how do you handle that?
Well, we know they're coming, and our public address guy here, he will announce every big match that's coming up. He's aware what's coming up, and we have a little red light special, we call it. So we'll put a little blinking siren over there, light that shows this is a matchup of 2 top 10 ranked guys in the country or 2 former state champions.
Okay.
So people know.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it, and we'll look forward here to day 2 continuing.
Thanks, Mac, for all the support.